Welcome to the prelude to the Honest EP podcast. Quick, exciting announcement. Rebound Health is hosting a Night with an Orthopaedic Surgeon event on Tuesday, the 10th of September, 7 p.m. at our Brookvale Clinic. Head physio Josh and also special guest Dr. Sean Williams, orthopaedic hip surgeon, are coming to tell us all about how to manage osteoarthritis as health professionals. This is designed for any professional, any health professional, and also is appropriate for students as well. So I'll put the Eventbrite link in our socials and in the show notes as well. Please come along. It is a free event. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your student friends. Let's make it a really, really good evening. It's going to be really, really valuable. And now let's go listen to a podcast. Welcome to the Honest EP podcast. We're the podcast for health professionals and the wider community, looking at sport adversities in health, ask smart questions, have some odd conversations. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based in cities on beaches, and joining me as always is allied health business owner Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
I'm well.
Fuck, it's been a couple of weeks. I just thought I'd just rip through it, see what would happen.
That was exciting.
And I don't think I missed any words, but who knows?
Someone can tell us if we missed words.
Well, I always wonder, like, at what point should I think about rewriting the intro to reflect what we actually talk about? Because to be honest, I don't know what I say at the start anymore.
It's on autopilot.
It's literally an autonomous task that I do now. I don't have to do anything with it.
It's been around for a little while. That intro.
That's been around the entire time.
Has it?
Yeah. The only thing I changed was having hard conversations to having some honest conversations because it reflected what we started talking about, and it wasn't particularly hard hitting. Wasn't as like snappy and cutting to the point as we thought it would be. No. It's more just like no bullshit.
Very good.
Which is great. We got a beer. You got a beer.
We have a beer, and I just pulled these beers out of the packet, and they are 1.8 standard drinks. And I'm like,
awesome.
This is going to be interesting. We've got the Four Pines Hazy Pale Ale in a bright yellow can, which is what grabbed my attention and why it was purchased.
Oh, it's great.
Is it?
I really like that. It's a lot of beers can be like too flavorful. I'm not normally a big flavor beer person. I like a craft beer. I like an IPA or a hazy or a XPA or pale, but sometimes they just overdo it for me. This one's probably right on the edge. If I wasn't in the mood for a strongly flavored beer, I wouldn't like this, but today...
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. It's great to have an excuse to drink on a Monday. I did a lot of drinking this weekend already.
Big weekend.
I had my Bucks party on the weekend. I did plenty of drinking, so I wasn't sure if I was going to want beer today. But it actually feels really nice to drink. So that's good news. I will get through these. We have a topic today, which was more relevant 3 weeks ago when we decided to do the topic, and then we've just kind of delayed each other for a couple weeks. But we're here, and we just come back from our team retreat, which you organised, which is an incredibly fortunate and privileged thing to be able to do as part of a healthcare company. It's very rare, especially in private practice, I think, anyway, having only worked at one place. But I feel very, very lucky to be part of a place that actually gets to do that. And we did a bunch of sessions there, different professional development sessions and team building sessions. But we've also, over the last few years, at least since I've been here, done quite regular team days or culture days or professional development days where we shut for half a day or a day and the whole team comes together and someone either comes and teaches us something or runs a session, or internally we run sessions. And we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to talk about is it worth it? How do you get to the point where it becomes worth it? And then also, what sessions have been really useful in the, 6 years of you running them? I'm trying to remember if you'd done any before I started here.
We might have done like an afternoon or something like that, but it was quite unstructured if we did.
Sure.
About 6 years.
So about 6 years worth of running, if not biannually, like quarterly team days or team sessions. And then for the last 4 years, having a team retreat where we'd go away for 2 nights and run quite a few sessions. So you've now got quite a lot of experience in running them, organizing them, and having the team together. And I imagine now you have quite a lot of takeaways of what works well, what doesn't work well, what advice you would give to people who would like to do it with their team or would like to build to a point of doing it, or just want to know, is it worth it, or why you would do it in the first place. So those are the kind of topics we want to cover today. I thought we'd start with me asking you, how did you get to the point of thinking about doing it in the first place 6-7 years ago?
Team days, you mean?
Yeah, yep. Or going, I think it's worth shutting the clinic for an afternoon to do this.
It started with, so I think it was around the sort of time that I joined a business consulting group called Clinic Mastery. And it was a point where I knew I wanted to grow the business and I needed some help to be able to do it. And when you go into these things, these kind of programs, you're like, oh shit, there are many, many, many things that I can be doing in a business to kind of grow it. And the original intention for shutting the clinic for an afternoon and doing some deeper work with the team was more just like coming out of some of these clinic mastery sessions and going, Jesus, like there is so much work that I need to do. I need to just sit down for an afternoon and do it with everyone. And so back then it was quite work focused. Like we were writing management plan templates, we were writing treatment mapping templates, we were writing client journey, like what the journey that we wanted our clients to go on. We were writing the process of referrer nurturing, like who do we reach out to, how do we nurture those people, what do we do when somebody refers to us for the first time, so that we could create a consistent service delivery experience, whether that was clients or team or referrers, so that when new people came on board, there was a process that people could follow that we had kind of vetted and that we'd created ourselves.
So why did you think it was important to not just do that in like a lunchtime meeting, but taking half a day or taking a day to do that?
Because some of those things, like just looking at the client journey one, for example, like it took an hour. The first time that we did that exercise, it took an hour just to explain what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah, right.
And then it was like, okay, well, now we need to spend an hour doing it and then half an hour reflecting. It's like, well, there's an afternoon.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
And what I had learned during the time was that those things are very impactful and valuable things to do. And the good thing is that you can... But when you have nothing and you do a team day and then you walk away with something, it's never perfect. It's always going to be refined, but it gives you a template to kind of build off of. And that is a very useful thing for a business to be able to have, that you have got this starting point for what we want our clients to experience when they engage with this business, from first point of contact through to, discharging. And so it was that. It was like, these are systems, these are assets that quote unquote businesses should have. And I saw just a big benefit to the business in having those things. And I also knew that we are very fortunate that we have some amazing people that work with us. and I wanted their opinions to be involved in the development of these processes.
So that's why you didn't just do it yourself.
Correct. Yeah. Because I would have one particular slant on the way things should be done, but there are different perspectives. And to have different perspectives built into the way that we do things builds a much greater robustness to that. If we've all kind of said and put in our 2 cents into the way that we want to do things, then when the next person comes into the team, it's not just one person said that we have to do this thing. It's like, no, we have agreed together that this is the way that we do things. So do them this way.
As a team, this is the standard. It's consistent across the board. So it's more about we need to provide a consistent service together rather than, one person likes to do this, but this person doesn't. And
Correct.
then the experience that people are having at your business is then different.
Correct.
That makes sense. So in those first, say, 2 years of running these sessions or organizing these sessions, what are some things that you learnt in terms of how to run a good one and how to avoid, what were some bad ones and what have you learnt from them?
Definitely there is the initial tendency was to try and jam pack things in, to do as much as we possibly can, because we're closing it for 4 hours and that is a certain amount of revenue that we're losing. So let's do 17 things during that time.
So the kind of structure was either on a Thursday or a Friday, see clients until 12 or 12:30, and then have half an hour for lunch, and then 1 p.m. we're in, and we're going till 5:30 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the initial tendency was to just put as much content in as we possibly can. And the work was very in the weeds, in the dirt. It was like, let's sit down and write management plan templates. Let's create social media content. We did that once. We spent half an hour or an hour just actually creating.
Oh, I remember that.
Things.
Yeah, I was there for that.
Right. Which I don't think is a particularly good use of. I wouldn't do that again. Let's put it that way. And getting too stuck in the work.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of the wrong mindset in terms of we're using this time for man hours, as opposed to think of it using this time for creation and imagination or ideas.
Yeah. But conversely, some of the best things that we've done have been the blue sky thinking side of stuff. If you had a magic wand, what would you change about the clinic? I think we do a version of that every year, or we have done a version of that every year.
Which you should.
Which is fantastic.
Because as soon as you stop thinking about what could we do to improve, because that's basically what that question is, what can we do to improve, then you're going to stop improving. You can't just criticize or pat yourself on the back for what you already do well and then do more work. That's not going to help you improve more. You have to actually identify what you would do differently. So yeah, we've done a lot of that over every year, right? Every year we do that.
Every year we do that. It's now just part of the itinerary or the agenda that we do.
You know what's funny? When at our first retreat, one of the things that was on that list of in 5 years or blue sky thinking, what would be awesome, something that Rebound had, one of the ideas that was thrown around was a podcast. And this is 2021. And after that, we bought a mic and we did. We did. So that's where that came from in the first place.
We did.
It was written on one of the butcher's papers as, it'd be cool if we had a podcast. And it went along there with things like, it would be cool if we had a shuttle bus, or it would be cool if we had an app.
Political party. There was a political party on.
And we're like, cool, awesome. And we're like, actually a podcast would be fun. So we did a bit of research into it and worked out how to do it, and then we did it. And here we are.
And here we are drinking beers in 2024.
But like, it seems that every year we did that, half of the things are stretches of the imagination, and half of them are like, oh, that's not out of the question. And it'd actually be interesting to look back 5 years ago at that blue sky thinking stuff, and then look at what we're doing now and go, how different is it from what we thought would be cool if we did to what we actually do now? And because every year we do that, we're ticking off more of those things, which I think is really, really cool.
Which was something that came out this year.
Yeah.
That we had a member of our team sort of say directly and specifically, like, we want to see progress. Like, we've done this exercise, that's great, but we want some accountability as to ticking these things off. So that, like, retreat 2025, we can go through, like, all of the things that we said we were going to do. Like, fantastic.
Yeah.
That is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that one of the best activities that I did with the EP team this year when we broke into groups. We did a bit of, I get blue sky thinking, but I had some questions I want to ask the team about it. And the questions we talked about were, if your consult was $20, how would it look different? And have people think about, like, well, if each person only paid $20, what would I have to do different in order to, break even and then make some money? And then the other side of that was, if your consult costed $500, how would it look different? And then that was where we came up with ideas and thinking about, like, what service, healthcare or not healthcare, have you been to where you were blown away with the experience? And people were trying to think of healthcare experiences where they were blown away, and people didn't come up with many.
And so the great thing about that is then people start to think outside of healthcare. And they start to go, oh, when I went and bought my iPhone, what was that experience? Or, when I went to a hotel, how did they greet me and how did they do that? And it's like, this is where the ideas and that blue sky thinking that you said before, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's like breaking the mold of thinking.
Exactly. Thinking bigger. And the main things that people could come up with within healthcare that was like, well, what healthcare services do you spend $500 on? Well, it's like, well, when you see the specialist and you see the most expert specialist, often that is the closest thing to a $500 mark consult. And those experiences don't normally blow you away in terms of how incredible they are, but you pay the money because of their knowledge and their expertise and their experience. So then one of the takeaways for us was like, well, how can we be as knowledgeable and have as much expertise in people coming in, like in people's conditions that they're coming in for as possible? And it's like, well, what specialists and experts do we know in these areas, and will they come and talk to us and learn from them? Or how can each person go and learn more so they become more of an expert in this area and then teach the team more about it as well? So we got some very tangible outcomes of reach out to specialists that you know or you have clients that see and ask them if they will come and talk to us. And then find a topic that you want to learn more about or do CPD in, do the CPD, and then present to the team so that everyone learns what you learn. And we will improve our service and be more valuable and provide a better experience. So that was a really good takeaway. So I highly recommend blue sky thinking of some sort. So
what was the question that you kind of prompted people for that?
The main question was, if your consult was $500,
what would you do?
What would you do differently? Yeah. And people came up with things like, well, I would spend more time researching. I would spend more time preparing their program and knowing every single thing there is to do about that. I would communicate perfectly with every single person in their care. I would have the most beautiful equipment and the most beautiful space for them to come to. and from them calling up and booking the appointment to them being leaving after the initial, it would be a perfect, seamless thing for them to do. I was like, okay, well, there's actually a lot of tangible things for us to do in that, which could be, what is our onboarding process like? What automated messages or emails do they receive? Are they told where to park, how to park, what to bring? Those kind of things. When they call, is there someone nice to talk to on the other end of the phone who can answer their questions at any time? When they come in, am I aware of what condition they're coming in for, and do I know my shit with that? Do I have resources that they can take home with education? Do I have a plan for them when they leave? Do I follow up with them afterwards? And am I communicating with all of their care team? So there was actually very, very tangible things to do. So the blue sky thinking actually knuckled down into some very doable details. So now we have set a plan of the things that we can do better and spread it out over the next kind of 2 to 3 quarters of just implementing 1 to 2 things at a time, because it's very easy to come back from any CPD course. Everyone would have had this, where they go to a CPD course and they have like 15 takeaways and they get there on Monday and their first 5 clients just cop the shit. Cop it all. They get educated the shit out of, and they have balls thrown at them and bands attached to all parts of their bodies and given all these funky exercises. And then by Friday, you're back to doing the same shit because you've just exhausted all of it and forgotten half the stuff. And it's like, that's not very effective. So it's better to have them all written down and then plan when you are going to implement each thing. So we have them written down and we have them dated as to when we are going to implement each thing. And it has to be after we perfect the thing before.
Correct.
Because there's no point moving on to the next thing if we're not doing the thing before well. So when you mention management plans, which is just something that we do for every single new client that comes in, they get a plan that basically summarizes their initial and sets up the next couple of weeks, and then what a longer term plan with them would look like, with some short term goals and where they are now and details, whatever. We spent probably 1.5 to 2 years with that as one of the main things that we were working on with our client experience. And we spent 1 to 2 years doing it because we wanted it to be consistent and done well before we moved on to something else. I think that's something we've learned from doing team days and retreats and stuff, is that and that's something we did really well this year, I think, is that part of the takeaways for me and the other heads of discipline were to actually put in the calendar when you were going to implement each thing that you wanted to do. Not, here's all the stuff, go for it. There was more planning for the heads afterwards. So the whole team did the blue sky thinking and they're coming up with all the great ideas for our client journey and other things important to the company. And then it was up to us to do the kind of the man hours and the hard work to work out how we're going to implement each thing. So that was a learning, is however many takeaways or things you get from your day or your afternoon or your retreat, have some people in charge of working out when each thing is going to be implemented and be accountable for actually doing them as well, I would say.
And I think accountability to the team is such an important kind of concept there. And then the beauty of that is that it doesn't matter if you're a team of 3 or you're a team of 40. If we're all working towards improving client journey, improving client experience, improving referrer experience, like the ability to set team-based goals and then work over a quarter, half a year to, I was going to say perfect it, but I'm going to stick with that word, perfect it, in the sense of like, it's done. Like, nothing's ever perfect. I get that. But like, we said we were going to do a thing, we did the thing, and now we can move on to the next thing because it is in a format that we have all agreed is like, this is good and we are happy with this.
And when a new person starts, they can ask anyone in their team, how do I do this thing? And anyone can answer the question. I think that's a good sign as well, that it's like, only Archie knows how to do that thing. You'll have to ask him. It's like, no, if we have a new team member start and they go, how do I do a management plan? I trust that my entire EP team can teach that person how to do it because we've spent long enough doing it right and practicing it that everyone can do it now.
Yeah.
So that's now a sustainable thing that's part of our client journey. So I had to get it to a point where maybe not perfected, but sustainable. It's probably a good way to talk about.
Yeah.
Sustainable change.
Sustainable change.
New word. Yeah.
Love that.
Added to the values. Sustainable change. So back on some other learnings you had from early on doing these things. The first one was not trying to cram too much in there. The second one was not getting stuck down in the nitty gritty of the hard work stuff, more blue sky thinking or all that kind of stuff. What other learnings do you have from earlier on?
I think there's a good balance between getting external speakers to come in and us running it ourselves. I think there was probably a period where at the start we did it all ourselves. And then we went a bit too heavy on getting like external people to come in and run sessions. And now we're just sort of course correcting that a little bit and it's a bit more balanced. And I think that's perhaps part of just the fact that we are a little bit clearer on what we need to be focusing on in a particular period of time. Because I think some of those things that we did when we brought external people in was kind of more around the personal development side of things than the professional development side of things. And, you know, some of the content that we talked about in the personal development, some people it gelled really well with, but some people it didn't land with.
Examples?
There was we had somebody come in, and so the context is important. The context was about being comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Oh, is that what the context?
That was
I never actually knew. That's what
that was the context.
Okay, I've always wanted to say, why did Andrew make me do this? Okay, go on.
And further to that context was the fact that okay, so I'm put in an uncomfortable situation. How do I react in an uncomfortable situation? So you can articulate
this all makes sense
how I react, and therefore, like when uncomfortable situations come up again, this is how I'm likely to react. So what can I do to prevent that? We sat cross-legged with knees touching, eye gazing,
one-on-one with another team member.
It was
for how long?
I don't even
Was it like
remember.
3 minutes? I feel like it was 3 minutes.
It felt like an eternity.
No talking.
Just eye gazing.
No laughing. Just like knees touching. So faces were a foot apart. Staring deep into people's eyes. God, that would make so many people uncomfortable.
I think we had somebody that started like a week or two prior
to
that and just was like, what the fuck have I stepped into?
Pretty sure it was me.
Well, you're still here, so maybe that works.
I was staring into Kate's eyes for 3 hours. Oh, sorry.
3 hours.
Felt like 3 hours. 3 minutes.
Yeah. There you go.
Which luckily, I didn't have a problem with eye contact. But God, there were some uncomfortable people in that room doing that. I guess the thing was, I don't know how much people got out of it, other than, God, that was a weird thing. To do.
Look, that to be fair, that was a weird thing, and we probably wouldn't do that again.
And then we held broomsticks.
We did hold broomsticks.
I still don't understand. So this is a guy. It was a lovely guy. He was like a resilience and mindfulness kind of teacher. Very, very smart guy. And I did learn some stuff from that. But then we just did some weird activities. The eye gazing was one of them. The other one was 2 people holding a broomstick, either ends, and you had like 3 poses that you went into that was like, we're arguing, and now we're discussing, and now we accept each other. And there were 3 different like Tai Chi poses with the broomstick.
This is good.
Yeah, because it was my second
Dramatic.
week. I was like, what the fuck is this place? I thought it was fucking... It was a healthcare. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. Still don't know what that one was about. That's fine. So yes, that one. What's your learning from that one?
Well, I don't know if there was too much learning. Okay, here is a learning, right? We joke about that now.
Oh, it's great.
And that was, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That we did that?
Yeah.
And it's funny because every time... Because what we still do in our retreats and team days and stuff like that is some sort of vulnerability exercise. And it's funny because that's the joke that gets made.
Yeah.
It's like, at least we're not touching these and eye-gazing for 3 hours.
Yeah. It's part of the history.
It's part of the history now. And so, like, I see some value in that.
No, me too. Yeah, it's very funny.
But I wouldn't do it again because
Okay, good. You
some people might leave.
vet your guest speakers. Like, all right, any funny activities you're going to do today?
Yeah.
No broomsticks.
No touching.
Yes. No touching.
No touching.
But there were some very good external speakers that came in as well. And some of the best topics I remember that we learnt about that I would highly recommend people doing was getting like a communication coach to come in and teach people about motivational interviewing or just reflective questioning or active listening or how to like Vin Jang kind of stuff. Like how to communicate using body language and verbal stuff and tonality together in a way that makes sense and engages people. Because, once again, we harp on communication all the time, but it is the most important skill in being in healthcare. And if you don't practice it, you don't get better at it, then you're just going to hit a roof in terms of what you can do with people.
And I think where we started with that was just like showing. I think we showed a Vin Jang keynote.
Yeah.
Easy. When he went through the 4 components of communication, and then it was like, okay, great. Now we're going to go and practice.
Yeah, practice it. Yeah.
So you don't actually need to bring people in to do that. It can be like, here's a 15-minute. One that we did last year was, I think we've done it for like the 4th time, which was Radical Candor.
Yeah.
Like
Feedback.
We watched
there's a good one to go through.
Watched the Brene Brown.
No.
Sorry.
Kim Scott.
Kim Scott keynote, which was 18 minutes. And then it's like, great. Now we're going to go and practice.
Yeah.
And you don't need to bring people in to do that. You can just show the YouTube video and away you go. And there's a huge amount of value in doing something like that because,
hugely,
like you said, they're skills that we harp on about constantly about the importance of communication. But unless you actually practice it deliberately, then it's unlikely that you're going to improve at a rate that you wouldn't from undeliberate practice.
I'm not sure if we've talked about radical candor or compassionate candor. I think they changed the words for it. But if you haven't, look up what radical candor is and who Kim Scott is and read the book or at minimum watch the 18-minute TED talk she did, keynote. And highly recommend going through this with your team. And this team could be, 2 people, 5 people, fucking 25 people. It is so helpful. And it is now a key component to how I see progression in practitioners because of how they work with others. And it applies to more than just how you work with your team. It applies to how you work with clients as well. Because understanding how to give hard feedback and hard advice to people that will hit in the right spot so that it causes action and not like a reaction that's not good is so important. So important. So that kind of falls into communication as well. But communication, feedback, blue sky thinking, and client journey seem to be the ones that we spent a lot of time focusing on, and they are recurrent themes now that keep coming up. So I think another takeaway from that is don't be afraid to do the same things in different forms again. You don't have to keep coming up with new ideas. Continual practice of the same ideas until they are done well is great. Very good.
I agree. I don't think any professional speaker would ever be like, I don't need to do this anymore. Like I am perfect. Like it is a constant process of assessing yourself and seeing if you're getting the result that you actually want to get when you communicate with someone. And that's something that we've done the last few years with like a vulnerability exercise, like redoing the same exercise again and again, just so that you get something different.
Can you explain that? How did you get to vulnerability as something you want to cover, and why do you keep doing it with us? And that's not accusatory. That's just like, I just want you to say it.
I think it feeds into being... So the exercise that we've done a few times now is the vulnerability cards, which comes from the Imperfects and their podcast, which is a great podcast. Everybody should listen to their podcast.
/ read the book, The Resilience Project.
And it's essentially like the exercise is like you pull a card and it's got a little statement on it, and you essentially just talk to the statement that's written on the card. Vulnerability. So I'll explain it this way. Patrick Lencioni has got a terrific book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
You should read that book, people.
You should... we're giving out recommendations left, right, and centre.
Absolutely.
The 5 dysfunctions of a team is the bottom layer, the most important layer about why teams are dysfunctional is a lack of trust. And so what that looks like, what a lack of trust looks like, is keeping things to yourself, not speaking up when you feel like something needs to be said or should be done differently, out of fear that you will be chastised for doing that, or that there is an unsafe space for you to be able to do that in that
your relationship isn't as good enough with the people you work with as well.
And so if you flip that and go, well, what does trust look like then? Trust looks like being able to give radical candor, being able to feel like you can walk up to someone, and yes, you should obviously tailor the way that you deliver communication to somebody else, but you exist in an ecosystem within a business where you can work on the assumption that if I give somebody feedback, it's coming from a good place and it will be received as such. And so therefore I have trust that how I show up will not be used against me in any sort of form. So then how do you build trust? Because we've all come from different social circles, we've all come from different contexts in working in a business. So what are the exercises that you could do that would help build trust within an organization? Vulnerability is one of those things. So to talk about experiences that you've had in your life where you were challenged, where it might have been doesn't have to be a negative thing, it could be a very positive thing, but to share something personal about what's happened to you outside of, your 38 hours a week of working in a clinic can help the other people in that organization see you in a slightly different light. See you in the way that you want them to be seen. And so this is why we do vulnerability exercises, is because with a growing team, we want to make sure that people continually feel comfortable to be able to speak the way that they want to speak in a work context. One of my mentors, Shane, references keeping the soul as they grow. So not moving away from what the values of the individuals are as a trade-off from the values of a business. And vulnerability is a great way to allow people in a safe space, obviously, to speak a little bit about, things that have happened in their life that are outside of their work, and allow other people to see them just in a slightly different kind of way. But vulnerability works kind of the other way as well, in the sense of like, if I say something that I feel is sort of personal to me, to a group of people that are my colleagues at work, if I feel comfortable enough to say something in that context, then it can kind of snowball. And this is why vulnerability is kind of set up this way. It's like we are going to sit down and we're going to do a vulnerability exercise, and this might make you feel uncomfortable, but that's okay. You can do hard things. Is because when you do it, you'll learn how to do it, and then you feel like you can do it more in other contexts. And so you can translate that experience of, sitting in a circle and doing it at a retreat to, I just need to pull somebody up about what happened in the clinic, or, a client said something a bit uncomfortable. Client said something that was a bit inappropriate. And I think I need to say something about that. And so this concept of vulnerability kind of extends away from just doing it at a team day to, okay, well, now I feel a bit more comfortable to do it in a more general setting.
It's a very good explanation of vulnerability.
Trust. It's about building trust.
It's about building trust. The bottom layer of building a good pyramid of function.
Love a pyramid.
We love a pyramid. Very good. Well done, Andrew. Everybody give him a clap. That was great. It's like you prepared that.
And there's a few, vulnerability cards.
Highly recommend that one because it's so easy. If you haven't done it before, it's like a pack of cards. It looks like Cards Against Humanity, but it's way nicer to do with work people.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
And like it basically, you pick up 3 cards and they each have different questions on them. And they can be things like, tell us, a moment that was difficult for you last year, or tell us something you're really proud of that you've done in your life, or something along those lines. I don't have any other examples. I can't remember any. Or tell us something you're fearful of, that kind of thing. Yep. And you get to pick one, and everybody just stays silent, and you talk about it for as little or as long as you want, and then you pass the cards on to the next person, and you just go around the room. So it could be as like surface level or deep as the person who wants to do it, which is great because some people are naturally more comfortable sharing more than other people. And the more you do it and the more you know the people around you, the more you're more likely to share more intimate things or more vulnerable things, which is great. Which is great.
I think some of our earlier versions of vulnerability we did hero hardship highlight. Again, same thing. Like
lots of crying.
Talk about a hero, talk about a hardship, talk about a highlight. Sweet sour stretch.
I remember that
one that we did.
Yeah. When we did hero hardship highlight, it was unfortunate timing that like 5 team members had a relative die in the last 6 months, and so they got to hardship. And then they'd start crying. And then the other 5 people who'd had a family member pass start crying. And then everyone's going, well,
here we go.
Andrew does a little silent fist pump in the corner and everyone's crying. And then...
Achieved. Goal achieved.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Tears.
Everyone's crying.
No, that's not why we do it.
No.
But, we work in healthcare and we're all emotional people. So... Tears are great.
Here we are.
Tears are great.
Yep.
Tears are good for the nervous system, everybody. So yes, they are some good ideas. I think the vulnerability cards are a great idea if you need something like that. But yes, we also recommend probably doing those earlier in the day or the weekend if you're going to do that kind of thing. Would you say?
I would agree.
Do we do it first?
We do it first. We do it in the first session.
Yeah.
And that's because one of the other things that I've learned about doing team days and retreats is like I want to get everybody talking. I don't want people to be sitting back, not contributing to the conversation. And certainly for the introverts in the room, it can be easy to just like sort of drift away, and not that you're not engaged, but just like the conversation. I don't need to be part of the conversation. Whereas if you can get kind of people talking at the start, they're more likely to want to contribute. It's easy for them to contribute
for sure
as the conversation evolves.
Yeah, I have one more kind of bigger question for you. That was in 2021. How did you get to the point where you were like, it is worth it for me to spend the money to take the team away on a retreat and not just do another day, another afternoon, another day? Like, how did you make that jump? How did you justify the cost of doing it? Because it's not a cheap thing to do at all.
I'm glad you punctuated.
Yes.
That.
How do you justify that? And year after year, how do you justify doing it?
I've got a few answers to that question.
All right. What's front of mind?
Front of mind is, I'll give two answers. First answer is, I read a great book recently called Legacy.
I'm reading that book. I'm 3 out of 4 hours in.
Excellent. Great book.
By the way, another recommendation.
Another recommendation.
It's about the All Blacks.
Legacy. And the concept around rebound is like, how do you want to leave rebound better than you found it? Right. And certainly my attitude towards retention for our team has changed a bit over the years to, like, initially, like, very simply, it's like, we found great people, let's just keep them forever. What can we do to keep people forever?
Not realistic.
Not realistic. And you're setting yourself up for failure because everybody will move on.
At some point.
Everybody will move on. And so the question then shifted to, how can we create a place where people love coming to work? And while they are here, they love coming to work. And there will be a time where they want to go somewhere else, whether that is traveling or back to uni or back to public health or somewhere else, start your own business, whatever. But while you're here, how can we make it so that you love coming to work? And I selfishly applied that to myself. I was like, well, how could I make a place that I love coming to work? And like I said before, I'm very fortunate because we've got an amazing team. It's like, well, wouldn't it be logical to, and because the team are smart and have great opinions and know many things, wouldn't it be great to create a place where we could explore these concepts that are less day-to-day and more bigger picture? So part of it's selfish. Part of it's like, I want to create a place where I love coming to work, and I see so much value in people's opinions here. So why wouldn't I create a place where we can have these kind of discussions about what the future looks like, what the 3 to 5 year vision looks like, what the $500 per hour consult looks like, and essentially be able to walk away from those conversations with my 12-month plan, like with a list of things that people have said, this is what we want. How can I go and implement it then? So part of it is a selfish. That's my first answer. It's like, it's for me, because I know that everyone will leave. That's a reality, and there is no fighting that. You can accept it or you can try and sort of dismiss it, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Everybody will leave. I guess if you
dismiss it, it'll just be ugly at the end, right?
Well,
because people will feel guilty and the relationship will end poorly, I imagine.
It will, 100%. And then you're setting yourself up for a failure because everybody will leave. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And at the end, it'll just be you. And that's it.
And that's fine.
And there'll be no one else left.
So why wouldn't I want to create a place that people
And then you can just go on a 2-day holiday by yourself.
I will.
And talk about how great your team is.
I'll start a podcast by myself.
And be vulnerable by yourself with your bottle of wine. No, 50 years' time, you can do that. Your other answer.
I'm going to finish that thought.
Okay, sorry.
And so selfishly, again, it's like, and this is one of the realities I often hear with business owners considering doing this for the first time. When we get new grads in and they're like, oh, this must be normal. Like every business must do this. Every business must do retreats and all this sort of stuff. It's like, well, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But in 50 years' time, when I'm old,
when you're 52 years old,
I want to be able to look back and go, I helped create a great place to work. I was going to say inspire, but I fucking hate that word, but I'm going to use it.
It's in our fucking inspire. It's in our thing. What do we call that thing? Our motto?
Motto.
Yeah. So deal with it. Embrace the word. Say it.
Inspire.
Cool.
Even though people might leave, and everybody will leave, but I want them to look back on their time here and go, fuck, that was good. And if I can do that, I've done well.
Amen.
That's my first answer.
That's a great first answer. Well done.
The second answer is it's great from a team perspective. I think so. Like we spend 38 hours a week at work, most of us. Like to be able, like the connection that you feel with your other team members, some of whom you might not cross a lot with day to day. To be able to walk away from these things with a bit more connection to other people that you spend so much of your time with, I think that's just a great thing to do. And again, like fortunately, most, and I don't think this is just a rebound thing. I think most allied health professionals get into health to help people. And so there is this common value of empathy that exists within allied healthcare specifically. So why not create a platform where we can have discussions about how we can do things better? And how do you put a price tag on that? Like it's very difficult to put a price tag on that.
After the first one we did you come away going, that was worth it? Or did that take about a year did that take longer to sit in and go, yes, I can see the change that happened over the last year?
It's interesting how you quantify that.
I guess it depends if you look at it in terms of ones and zeros, right? Or revenue, cost, profit, that kind of thing, right?
If you were to make a decision based off revenue, right, I don't know how you would quantify it.
Very difficult.
I really don't know how you would. But what I know is that most of the... I just burped there. Most of this hazy ale is doing its job.
I'm burping.
Like you said, this podcast came from a whiteboard session that we did 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of it, like the clinic that we have here, has come from a whiteboard session. The client journey has come from a whiteboard session. So I don't know how you can put a dollars and cents value to that, but I know that we would not be the same if we didn't do it.
Guarantee. So I can kind of tell you what I see on a day-to-day level that maybe you don't see post-retreat, is that even on our gym, in our gym, could not get those words right. The the talk back and forth with other people, the physios on the floor, the OTs walking through, that I wouldn't normally have such a great relationship with or have a great conversation with, I am having great conversations with them. And I think that transfers across to all levels of the business. It means that when I have an OT question, I can go to Veronica and ask her and also catch up with her because we know each other much better than we would have known each other than just having, lunch together for 20 minutes once a week kind of thing. It's like, no, we've spent time together outside of work and I care about her and I care that like how her fitness journey is going and how her running's going. Like I ask her those questions and then I go, I should ask Veronica this OT question. So I do that now. And so I'm learning more about other professions. I am more inclined to refer to her if I have a client who I think needs her services. I am more inclined to ask our physios a question about something that I know they are interested in, or send a client to them because I know that they are awesome and they're really good people. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm much more likely to ask advice from or send one of my clients to someone who I know is a good person more than just a good clinician. The people coming to work, knowing they walk into the office and there are good people that they like, I think directly leads to better work. Directly leads to better work. So however you inject more opportunities for people to make better relationships with their team, with their colleagues, it will lead to better work. It will, because I talk to everybody more on a more friendly level. Not that I wasn't friendly beforehand, but I just inherently know people better and I want to talk to people more because we are friends. And that works on so many levels. And I really think that rubs off on clients as well, because they know that we play social netball together. And they ask us, Sam was telling me about social netball last night. How did you play? And it's like, heard you had a good game. How was it? And you go, buddy, Sam was doing this the other day. What are you going to do? And you like, clients can see that we like each other. And that makes a difference. It makes a difference in the day-to-day clinical work that we do. And it makes a community with our team and also our clients, which is so important. And you don't get that if it's clear that the people working at the gym you go to or the clinic you go to don't talk to each other. It's like people can feel tension. It's that like kind of thing in the air that you can't actually see. It's invisible, but you can feel tension. And we don't have that. We don't have tension in the air here. And it's because everybody likes each other. And people walk into work and I talk to Nikki at the front desk because I actually want to talk to Nikki at the front desk. And the clients in the waiting room see that. And that's not because I'm making a conscious effort to do it. It's because I actually, want to know if she's playing netball tonight. And you don't get that unless you spend time together. So can you quantify it in numbers? I don't think so. But you could definitely feel it. You could definitely feel it. And it feels different, especially after we've spent time together. And, this can be as simple as doing socials one Friday a month, one Friday a quarter, going out and having beers somewhere or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be a retreat or a day without a clinic, a day without clients, but those are just better ways to do it. And it's more of a cost, but you get more of a reward for it, I think. And that falls back to the things you want from it, of people enjoying coming to work and loving their time here. And it also falls back to you probably enjoying what you do more as well. because you know that you come in and the team has smiles on their faces because they are happy to be there. And at every level of a company, I think seeing happy people, clients and team, would inherently make a director happy.
Yes. Yes, it would.
Yes, it would. That would be great. Thank you very much. I would love happy people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else for you.
Great.
Do you have anything else?
We had to build up to retreats, right? Retreat was not a. Oh, Archie, next weekend. What are you doing? It's like, oh.
I mean, it was coming off our best 9 months ever.
And I think, we'd done some team days around what our values were and these sorts of things. And so there was this general shift towards like, we want to do things better. We just need a place and a time to do it. Retreats also, and we were talking about this in our leadership team prior to it, retreats are not a fix. You don't do a retreat to fix a problem. If you have a culture problem, you don't do a retreat to fix your communication problem. In fact, probably the opposite would happen.
It'll probably exacerbate it.
It'll probably exacerbate it. So, that shouldn't be the mentality going into something like this. It's like, oh, I've got a problem and we just need a time to sit down and nut it out. It's like, no. It will make it, probably it'll make it worse. Doing a retreat, doing team days is a reflection of a good culture, not a trying to create one or trying to reverse a bad one. So that would be like something to consider. Is that if you think this is going to fix a problem, it probably won't. So don't do that. And it's just fun.
It's just fun. It's just great getting pissed with your workmates.
It is. It really is. And this is probably the last lesson, is that less is more. What I've learned from doing four retreats now, is it's actually the space in between the content that people remember. And the first retreat that we did, there was like, we start at 9, we finish at 5 or 6, and then we have a dinner, and then we do this, and then we do that. And it's like, it was one thing after the other. And I think what we did much better this time was we have enough content, but we also have enough time for people to just chill out and just sit on the balcony and chat.
And people left wanting more content, which is probably a good thing, because it meant that for the next couple of weeks when in my EP meeting, when I was like, all right, we're going to revisit this, people were like, yes, I wanted to do more of this. It's like, great, perfect. That's exactly what you should want. Yep. You don't want people to go, no, fuck,
we've done this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a good reflection.
Yeah. So, less is more on retreats.
Beautiful. Is there any more of that beer?
It's done. I've had 2 of these beers. Fuck me.
3.6 standard drinks.
Might need to do some work for a little while before I get in the car.
Nah, you can drive. What are you talking about? Yeah. There's no cops on the beaches. It's fine. Road. Nah. Don't listen to this podcast, cops. There's no drunk people driving at 7 o'clock on a Monday night.
No.
None.
Not at all.
None in a Ford Ranger, especially, with rebound on the side of it.
Hey,
don't pull that one over. Don't pull the branded dude over. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.